Welcome back to another episode of the Murph Mai Tai Show.
In this next song, you must march around the room. Here we go.
Yeah, I know what the fuck I'm doing. Just sit down in the chair.
We're good. So now start
Cool.
from your beginning.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Okay, thanks for having me, boys. So pretty much, I've grown up in Western Sydney my whole life, like born and bred here. Played soccer literally ever since I could walk. So from the age of like 4, just been kicking the ball around. Realized at an early age that I loved it. Grew up playing with boys. I have a twin sister as well, so it was pretty much like me and her always in the boys teams. Just and I think that, like, looking back, that's probably why I am so tough, because I grew up playing with boys until I was about 13. And yeah, just from there, just started like playing footy and making teams, like realizing I was kind of good at it. I think, yeah, started making state teams, like national teams, like junior national teams, all that good stuff. I think I started playing W League when I was in year 10 in high school.
Wow.
So I wasn't good enough to play at Sydney. So I had to drive up. Honestly, true story, back in the day, I think it was like 2010, I had to drive up 2 hours one way just to go to training at Newcastle because I just wanted to play soccer so bad.
How many
So my
days a
mum would
week
have
was
to
that?
at that time it was only 3 times a week.
Okay, still that's
So yeah, and I didn't have my license, so my mum would have to like drive me up. And there was another girl from Sydney, so we would carpool. I don't even think I got paid that season. I think maybe $700, which didn't even cover petrol.
For the whole season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I think I was just like a little kid, and I was just so excited to be there. Like, and then the next season did it again, but there was a few more Sydney girls, so we just travelled up. And that year, our team was pretty good. And then in that time, I was kind of like traveling with like young Matildas, like I was in NSWIS. And then when Wanderers had a team, it was amazing because it was just down the road. So I loved that. So I signed there. And then I had to make a decision. I was just graduating high school and kind of had to make a tough decision and realize like I probably wasn't going to make Matildas anytime soon. So then I left and I went to college for 5 years, knowing that in that 5 years, I wasn't going to make any like national teams or anything like that. So just kind of enjoyed the experience. I think I came home once in the 5 years. So just kind of lived it up every holiday, every like break. I just traveled because I just love traveling. And then came back, played a season in the W League, realized I hated football, took a season off, realized I love football. Didn't really like working that much. Came back, played a season of W League, and then went to Napoli. And then at Napoli, had a good time, loved it. Got a call up for the Matildas. And yeah, and then I signed for a club in Denmark. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
And here we are.
wow.
Yeah, and here we are. Yeah.
That's a
Go
hell
with
of an
your thing.
introduction story.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me. But yeah.
So we might like reverse back through all of that.
Let's go
Yeah,
right from
that's,
the
I know there's a
beginning.
lot to unpack there. Yeah.
We asked for dot points, right? So that's great. We can fill in the gaps from
We're
there.
about 60.
Where do you want to start?
Thank you.
Well, actually, one thing you will start at straight away, unless you want to go even further back, what I'm about to bring up, was
Yeah.
you would know Emily Condon, I'm sure.
Yeah, know of her. I think she's
Yep.
a couple of years younger than me, but everyone in footy knows everyone. Yeah, she's
Cool.
decent.
We
super
interviewed
fit.
her a while back, and she was talking
Yeah.
about how when she was younger, early on, she played with the boys as well.
Yeah.
And then as she went into, we're making coffee. Sorry.
Love that. No, that's important. It's crucial.
Wow.
And she found that was a benefit for her playing with the boys at that early age to develop skills and progress her through to the next stage. Did you find the
Yeah.
similar sort of thing, or how did you find playing with boys at the younger age and then moving to purely girls teams?
I think obviously boys don't care if you're a girl. If anything, they're going to go harder. And having like 2 girls on a team, I think they always kind of pick us up. So I do think it was a benefit because they were so tough and they didn't care. If anything, they went harder than they would if I was a boy. And at that time, like there wasn't teams that were like available for girls. So it wasn't like there was a girls team and we just chose that. It was just that's all that was available. So we just kind of had to play, and then we just kind of had the same team growing up. So we played with the same boys. And I don't think it was until I think I was like under 14 that we had to go and play for a girls team. And it was a very big difference. Like what we thought was normal because we were playing with boys turned out to be really, really rough when we were playing with girls. And I still remember my first red card. literally bawled my eyes out just because I tackled a girl like really hard, and it was like a red card. And I'll like never forget that. And it was just, I thought it was normal, but it turned out just because the levels were so different. Yeah.
So do you think it helped you at all, or is it more of a hindrance because it made you too hard, or
Honestly, I think it depends who you ask. I do definitely play that. I think it has become such a big part of my game because I do, especially being a centre back, like I am known for kind of like throwing people around. But I think it's a benefit just because it does bring another element into my game that a lot of people don't have.
okay?
Like this is great. I talked to Condon about this interview yesterday.
What'd she say? Yeah.
You know what she said? She said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure she tackled me pretty hard once." I was like,
yeah, honestly, if you ask anyone, they're like, yeah, can drop a shoulder.
So you're known as the bully out there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely an enforcer.
So what have you got to? Sorry, when you were going through that, right? At what stage did the Wanderers have a team then? I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
So
now,
so it wasn't until I think it was like the first year the club even was created. I think it was that 2012, 2013 season. So from like day one, I've kind of been a part of the club in some way, in some form, and I loved it. Like I loved playing for a club just around the corner. And at that stage, I hated Sydney. Like I would never, ever, ever play for Sydney like that. If you're from Western Sydney, you just can't. You can't. It's so rude. So I was like so stoked to be able to like put on the red and black. And honestly, it's still like everyone asks me like what my favorite club is, and it's always going to be Wanderers. Yeah. So yeah, and I've played for Wanderers 3 different times. There's always been like seasons in between because honestly, I don't think there's another W League club that I would play for.
Yeah. And what? So when you're back at high school, then so you had to make the decision to go international, right? To go to college.
Yeah.
I want to focus on that for a little bit because
definitely.
It's a common. I find it's a common situation that does arise. You know, particularly for girls at that level where they are junior Matildas or young Matildas, and you see, am I going to be able to make the system or not? And if I'm going to make the system, I'm going to stay here. If not, I'm going to go somewhere else. But I'm going to get, you know, an education and physical training, and you can still do what you want, right? So, like at that point in time, the decision to obviously go overseas for 5 years, what did you end up studying, and then how was your time over there?
For sure, yeah. So first and foremost, I like grew up like with young Matildas and junior Matildas and all that stuff. I was like playing with girls like Sam and Caitlin and Alana. So there was a point where they were all making Matildas, and I was just kind of being like, I wasn't. So, and school has always kind of been an important component. So it just kind of came down to the decision like, okay, I know that for the next 4 years or 5 years, I'm not going to make a national team. And that was something that I had to come to terms with. And obviously growing up, that was always a dream of mine. So that was the hardest decision I did have to make. And then obviously choosing a school, that in itself is like another thing. Like college is such a competitive place. And I don't think I really understood the culture of what it means to be a collegiate athlete until I went over there. But for me, I just chose a school. I chose University of Colorado because it was in a good conference. We played teams like UCLA, Cal, Arizona, Oregon. So it was in a tough conference. And I just kind of wanted to jump into the deep end. So Colorado is the complete opposite of Western Sydney in terms of weather and just culture and just the vibe. I had no idea. It was the biggest culture shock. And I eventually did study. I graduated with a Bachelor of Human Services. So at the time, I just kind of went to college to go to college and play football. Like I wasn't too focused on the academics. And then it kind of got down to crunch time. I had to figure out what I wanted to do, and I kind of just picked a degree that I was gonna graduate with. So at that time, my degree wasn't that big of a priority. And then when I came back, I was like, shit, like what am I gonna do with a Bachelor of Human Services that I got in America that means literally nothing here? So now I'm working towards my master's in public health. So I think I graduate next June with that. Yes, in 2 semesters I'll be done. So that's exciting.
And that's done offline or like online?
So I started on campus. So when I came back to Australia, I played again for Wanderers, and I had a terrible season, barely played, and I was like, do I even want to do this? Is this what I really wanted to do? And then so I took a step back and worked full time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to figure out what I want to do. So I was working full time and I was going to uni full time doing my master's. And then I was like, this actually sucks. Like, I don't want to do this. I do miss playing football. So then I kind of had one season of NPL in Queensland, and then came back down and played another season of W League.
What did you do for work in that time?
I was working, I was a membership consultant at Fitness First. So I was full-time sales. The worst job. It
Wow.
is so hard. And at Fitness, yeah, like
No wonder you went back to
terrible.
football.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, people don't understand how hard it is. Like trying to sign up 150 people a month. Like it was intense.
Yeah.
But honestly, glad I did it. Loved it. It was a good experience. But I realized, okay, I'm not ready to work yet. I'm not ready to settle down and figure out what I want to do yet. So I went back to footy, and then
So
there's been like
I was gonna say, with the realization that you weren't gonna make the 4 to 5 years, how did you said you come to terms with not making that, right? So it's been a common thread through that people we have talked to interview before about, okay, came to terms with that, then I moved on. Well, how did you come to terms with that? Obviously you've got family, friends, yourself, like what did that involve?
Yeah, it is such a hard decision because it is something you work towards your whole life, and it's you're never fully closing the door, but it's kind of lowering that expectation that you might get a call up, because there's only so long that you can just kind of hope for it, and then it just doesn't happen, because that in itself is so draining. So I actually remember at the time, because I went to Westfields, which is a sports school here. So me and Alana, because she was also kind of thinking about going to college, we sat down with Tom Sermanni, who was the coach at the time, because he used to coach at the school. So we had a quick, honestly, like an OG, and quickly had a chat with him, and he was like, and I was like, honestly, like, lay it all out for me. He's like, Alana, stay, like, you're probably gonna be good. And he was like, Alex, if I was you, he's like, I'm not saying you're never gonna make it, but in this next cycle, you're probably not gonna be like a prominent squad player. So for me, that made my decision a lot easier, because I was having like that external opinion that mattered at the time. So that kind of took a little pressure off myself making that decision. But I knew that when I was going to college, I was going to be in an environment that was physically demanding, like a high workload every single day, because I don't know if you spoke to many girls that have been to college. It is its own beast. It is something that's like completely different to anything that is available in Australia.
How so? Can you expand on that?
We have talked to people about this a lot. We want to hear your thoughts. Like, just go deep. We got time, on what your thoughts are. Different beasts to that and ours. Like, let's go ham.
For sure. So personally, I'm such a free spirit. Like, I don't like getting told what to do. And I don't know if you guys like have many American friends, or like you've been to America. Like, the college system, it's literally like you just have to shut up and do what they say. And so it's like every single day you're training, whether it's like you're in the gym for 2 hours, you're out in the field, you're doing some sort of conditioning. It's like non-stop. And for me, that was such a big culture shock, because I came from like having so much independence, like doing whatever I wanted to do, and then going to college and then literally telling you every day like what to wear, when to eat, where to be, like what to do. And it felt like very much like I was trapped. So the first year for me was honestly really hard. Football wise, I played every game. I loved it, but it was just like living in the dorms, and like that aspect for me was so hard, being away from home, and just like I honestly felt like I was in jail. Like I felt like I had no freedom, like, because you couldn't do anything, you couldn't go to party, you couldn't do anything, because every single day you had something on, and you couldn't be late, you couldn't do anything. So for me, that was the hardest thing, is like being told what to do all the time. And I'm very different from everyone else. So I had like a very different experience. So I actually transferred my junior year to senior year because I got kicked off the team.
Hang on, say that again?
So I went to 2 different colleges. So the first 3.5 years I was at Colorado, and I got into a bit of trouble just because, like, not many people know this, but I was like, I'm a very free spirit. So if someone's having a good time, like, I want to have a good time. And obviously in America, you have to be 21 to drink. So there was a couple of times where I did actually get in trouble with the law. And I was never the fittest person on the team either. So there was like a lot of issues with just me, and I played every game because it wasn't an issue of like I wasn't good enough. It was just I just didn't like getting told what to do. I don't like when people yell at me. Like if you yell at me, that's doing nothing for me. If you yell at me to go faster, I'm literally going to go slower.
You
just
like
because
rebel
I just,
against everything.
yeah,
Someone says
because I
one,
don't,
someone says black, you go white.
it just depends. Like if you're yelling at me, I'm not going to do what you want me to do, because then I'm like saying your behavior is okay. So that was the hardest thing for me, is like culturally, like I just didn't like being yelled at like that, or just didn't appreciate it. So that was the hardest thing for me. And I know my experience is a lot different to other people, because some people like love America, but I always knew I was going to come back to Australia, just because I love Australia. I love the lifestyle, I love the vibe. And I knew I was never going to play in like the American League. So for me, it was just kind of like, it got to a point where I wanted to quit, and then I just couldn't quit because I'm not a quitter. And I just invested so much time already, and I was so close to graduating, and like had so many friends there. So I just kind of like stopped caring about football and just kind of wanted to live my life. And that's where it always kind of like, for me, it's like I need to be intrinsically motivated. So I kind of lost that motivation, kind of got into a bit of trouble. And then when I went to my new school I moved from Colorado to Alabama, which is like moving from Newtown to Darwin. It's so different. So I was like, where am I? Like I had no idea where I was. And then that last year I was like, okay, like this is a year. I buckled down, and I just kind of did the last year and just got out and just came home, because at that point I didn't want to play soccer anymore. I was just kind of there because I was on a scholarship. I wanted to finish my degree and then just like come home, because it was like really, really, really tough for me. And I just think I didn't have that like emotional intelligence or that maturity to go there and just understand and appreciate the experience for what it was.
Because it's not really like a transition period here, or transition setup. You know, you basically take it from here and off you go. So it's that.
Yeah,
I was just like, it's the Western Sydney, Western Sydney going to Colorado.
It was very different, and there's so much running in America, like so much conditioning. And I'm not like I'm an anaerobic athlete. I'm not built for not built for marathons. And it was just, yeah, that was again like a massive, like the football in America is so different to what it is here. So the standard obviously wasn't as high. It's kind of like in between an NPL and W League, except for the season. So that the individual players aren't as good as W League, but the standard's higher than NPL, and you're training all the time, and the resources that you have and the availability to the resources is what kind of elevates the level. So it's just, you are playing at a high level, but it's very emotionally like draining.
Can you talk about the training then, and can you talk about the timetabling that you had to go through while you were there?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously there's 2 semesters. There's a fall semester and a spring semester. So fall is from August to December, and that's when you play. So that's soccer in college is a fall sport, and then the spring is like your off season. So that's from January to like May. And in the spring, it's straight up just conditioning. For the first 6 weeks, you're not even allowed to touch a ball. So you just run. So I was like, sorry, what? So for me, that was like, why am I even here? Like, I'm not on the track team. So, and like where I was, obviously you're in Colorado, you're at elevation. My first day was like, we actually do fitness tests. So freshman year, first day, we're doing a fitness test, and I've passed out, literally passed out because of altitude. I didn't even know what that was. And I was like, I went as hard as I could, and I just passed out. And everyone's like, where is she? Some of the girls had to like track back to find me because I just passed out cold. So like that was like welcome to college. But so in season, it's pretty much like when I was there, we had a game Friday and a game Sunday. So you would just like train every day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You travel Thursday, get to a game Friday, play, travel to your other team on the Saturday, and then play again on Sunday, and then come home. So normally teams are in 2. So if you go to LA, you'll play USC and UCLA. If you go to Arizona, you play Arizona State. So that's kind of how it works. But it's just such a tough schedule, because at the same time you're also doing a full course, like a full load of coursework, because you're there to like obviously be a student athlete. So you're doing full-time uni, you're training 4 hours a week, then you've got tutoring, and then you've still got to find time to like hang out with people, like eat, just sleep. Like it was very, very, very full on.
Do they take care of you in the way of health? Do they, I mean, what's the food like over there? Do they look after you other than the physical punishment they put you through? Is there another side of it? Are they giving you recovery protocols? Are they giving you good nutrition?
Yeah, so there was obviously you do have access to a nutritionist that was there, so that's always nice. And then obviously freshman year or whenever you are, there's always places to eat on campus. So you have like a massive like food hall, and then you obviously get access to those. But for the most part, you're pretty much just like on your own. So there's a thing called like freshman 15. So it's like when you're a freshman the first year, everyone puts on 15 pounds. Like that's just the thing. It's like freshman 15. I remember the coach was like, "Have you heard of it?" I was like, "No, exactly. You're probably going to put on 15 pounds." And I'm like a fit girl. Like I'm like love the gym. So I was like, that's fine. But some girls come from like high school where they don't do much conditioning at all. And then the training they put you through literally just transforms people's bodies. So if you haven't done any weight training and then you go to college, you're going to die.
Yeah, wow.
So I think for me I was used to that kind of stuff because I do love the gym. So I've always kind of been in that environment. But for a lot of girls, I know they've struggled in that aspect because they make you like, it's intense lifting. It's like you're doing cleans, you're doing deads, you're doing all these like compound lifts that literally translate just like they're just like power movements because they just want you to be fast and strong. So a lot of the training you do isn't actually like sport specific. A lot of it is just like getting in the gym and getting stronger because it's the season's so short. They need everyone to play, so they just need everyone to just kind of be as strong and fast as you can during the season.
Did you find that over the 3 years you were there, 3.5 years you were there, the program developed in accordance with your development? Did they like, we're thinking from like an S&C perspective, we know if you've got someone for 3 years, shit, you can do so much with it,
Yeah, not really, just because the culture in college is like you're not really building foundations because you don't know how long you have someone because you could be in and out of the job. So the transition of this S&C, like they move from sport to sport, or so I had 3 different ones when I was there. So the turnover rates, it's pretty high, and then they just go from other like sport to sport. But for me, it was just kind of like strength training. There wasn't really any progressive overload. There wasn't like 12-week blocks. It was just like kind of getting in, getting out, and just doing what you wanted, like just trying to get as strong as you can. Yeah, it wasn't anything.
What was the injury rate like over there?
I think honestly it wasn't too bad. There wasn't too many like overuse injuries or anything like that. I actually did break my foot 1 year though, because I was standing on my bed, stood off and broke my 5th metatarsal because they tried to they tried to get me on the bike. So every day I had to do extra running because they're like, you're not fit, like this, that. And because they smashed me so much, I had a stress fracture in my foot and didn't realize. Wow. And then I stood off. I was like, oh, okay, that's normal to feel like that. And stood off my bed and broke my foot and got surgery the next day and was out for 6 weeks and then played again.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's literally like you do feel a little bit like a commodity because your contract lasts like year to year. And at my college, if you weren't performing, they would like take away some of your scholarship. Yeah, it was really cutthroat. Yeah.
Does it motivate you more? Like, does that give you a little bit of extra drive, or that it helps with that intrinsic motivation?
Personally, no, because I'm not scared of getting in trouble. So unless I want to do it, like I'm not going to do it. So just because if someone's like, oh, if you don't do this, you have to run more. Like for me, that's fine. Like if I'm like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of girls I know are like motivated because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be classified as being like bad. But for me, that's not why I do something. If I do something because I want to do it because it's going to make me better, not because I'm afraid of getting in trouble.
How did you build your own intrinsic motivation then? So if you're not motivated by punishment or external, how did you do it yourself?
Where's that come from?
I'm just such a competitive person. Like I hate losing more than I like winning. And I think honestly, that's why I've gotten so far, because you know what I mean? Like winning, it's nice, but at the same time, like if we won and I played shit, is it like, does it feel like a win? Kind of, but not as much, you know what I mean? But so I think personally, I'm just such a competitive person, like it's borderline, not good.
I think, isn't that, did you ask me this about hating, no, I saw it on Twitter. It was that exactly what you just said then. It was a Twitter poll that came up, which was like, if you have to choose a team, all right, would you rather a team that loves winning more than it hates losing, or hates losing more than loves winning? And it was like the discussion on the Twitter thread.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you guys think?
Hates losing.
Hates losing.
100%.
Move away from the pain, right? And
Yeah,
it's been
exactly.
shown to motivate people more than moving towards something that they want. You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
scientifically,
Because
it's been
winning's
shown.
never guaranteed.
Winning's
You can
never
do everything
guaranteed.
you want, and it's never guaranteed.
Yeah, and you're moving away
but
from
yeah.
the pain and not towards the pleasure.
Yep, damn straight.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what would you say as like, what would be your top 1 or 2 takeaways, the positive takeaways from college?
I just think the workload, like obviously the success of the American women's team has to come from somewhere. And I think a massive part of their success is just because a lot of the girls do go through that. So it's like, I feel like if anything, we don't train enough in terms of like, a lot of people are worried about like load management, which 100% but at the same time, it's like, there's no point managing a load if you're not getting enough work here.
Breach it.
And
You're talking about in Australia, we don't train enough.
Yeah, in Australia, right. I think for me, that was a massive takeaway. Is like, you can always do more. And I think just, like working more and just doing as much as you can, because I think load management, it can be great, but at the same time, I think a lot of people don't really know what they're doing or don't just kind of say it to say it. So I think for me, that was the biggest takeaway. And the second takeaway is just, I am someone who does like to be out of my comfort zone, because I think you do grow the most. So I think just being uncomfortable for like a lot, like has made me a stronger person. So there's always kind of being out of my comfort zone. So yeah, that's kind of the second takeaway. Just pushing myself as much as I can.
Coming back then, not coming back with those ideas, right? So you've been developed for now 5 years away. Coming back into the system that you've come into, how did you find you adapted or didn't adapt to that? And then what would you change to make the sport better here?
Yeah, that's such a loaded question. I think.
Oh, that's what we're about.
It's massive. I think.
Let's do it.
What was the first part of that question? That was such a long question.
Yeah,
what was the first part?
That was a massive question.
Let's run the question up. So, coming back, right? What did you find was like the biggest difference here? First part, make it simple.
Okay, so the first part, when I first came back, it was way back in 2017. So I came back in July and I jumped straight into an NPL team, and I just realized like, I think it's just the quality. Look, just because in America there's so many girls that play football, there's so many girls, so obviously the standard's going to be higher at a higher level. So I just think not the lack of quality, but there is such a big gap in between like NPL and then W League and then like international. And I think going on the second part of that question is to get better. I think we need to bridge those gaps, because like it's crazy to me that you can have girls coming from like state NPL and now they're in the Matildas like mix. So where, you know what I mean? Who bridges that gap? And there's that Future Matildas program, but what about all the girls that are older than that and just, you know what I mean, have missed the boat? And there's so many girls flying under the radar. Like for me, for instance, I had to go to Europe because there's nothing here. There's just NPL. And then you transition from like training 2-3 times a week NPL, unless you're doing your own thing, going to W League, where it's like, you can tell the girls who put in the extra work and the girls who don't. And it shouldn't be like that, because there should be kind of like resources available. And there was that the 1 or the 2 ID camps, but there needs to be more stuff like that to kind of fill the gap, because we're falling behind because there's not those systems in place.
You said there needs to be more resources. What do you suggest? More
training programs. Yeah. So when I was growing up, there was like every state had like an NSWIS. It's like NSWIS is like New South Wales Institute of Sport. So when I was like 14, I was training with like all the girls in the state that were in some sort of like Australian team, whether it be like 17s, 20s or the full team. So I remember being like 14 and training with like 30-year-old women, and then like yelling at me, and like I had and like literally just they were the best, and I had to train with them, and I was so scared every day to go training, but it made me better, because like I was like so afraid to like make a mistake that I just had to be better. So I think having those programs in place to create environments that are like high level environments that are going to create opportunities for players, because right now, what are people doing? Nothing. You can't do anything because there's nothing there for you to do besides go to your NPL training. So I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be addressed.
And what would you put in those programs, like to the nitty gritty?
Personally, I just think like strength training in Australia needs to be a bigger focus. So many people are like just weak, and yeah, you can have all the skill in the world, but I think a reason that I've been successful in where I've been is because I am so strong. So there's no point being skillful if I'm going to push off the ball. You know what I mean? Like for me, I think that is a massive thing, and a lot of people don't realize that. And especially soccer players, they're just so skinny and small. And it's like, and I see something like that, and I'm like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to smash you. I'm going to get the ball for you every day. You know what I mean? Like mentally, I've already won. I know I'm going to beat you. So I think for me personally, that's something that needs to be addressed as well.
And you don't have to pander to us, but that is definitely
100%. Like that's your bread and butter. I know.
That's our shit right now. So we're trying to tell for years.
I'm such a massive advocate for that, because I just think you would know, like there's so many girls that aren't going to reach that potential because they just don't have that athletic ability, because they're not they're not training.
Why do you think girls don't strength train enough? Like, I mean, because it's very much a male nature to go, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to hit the gym. Like I started when I was
100%.
16.
Culture even,
our male culture is go to the gym. Why do you think girls, I'm sure they're starting to do it now a little bit more. Why do you think it's taken so long, or why is it still a little bit slower for them?
I just think for me, I'm such a boy. I honestly love going to the gym. I will go to the gym when I'm stressed, or but I think for a lot of people, it's just that culture, the acceptance. Like none of my friends in high school went to the gym just to go to the gym. I was lucky because I always went to the gym because of soccer. So I always had a program. But I know a lot of the girls, a lot of my friends don't go to the gym because they don't know what to do. Or in terms of soccer, I just don't think there's been enough importance. So I've never been on a team, just at NPL level, which a lot of girls are playing, that has a strength and conditioning coach in a gym. People do stuff on the field. And there's prehab's great, love it. But at the same time, you're not going to get strong on the field. Mm-hmm. So I just think there's not that much importance placed on female teams. Whereas boys teams, they will go to the gym because obviously a part of it's the aesthetic. But again, boys love going to the gym. But for females, especially female athletes, I just don't think there's enough importance put on, or anyone even in that field kind of doing it. There's you guys, but there's not really that many people that focus on female athletes.
Would you say it's a lack of education then? Lack of education for girls, women to understand how important it actually is? Because obviously you understand, this.
Yeah.
But I know you obviously maybe a little bit different in the way of how you grew up with it all.
Yeah.
Is there a lack of education for the rest of the female sporting world?
From what you've seen and what you've found?
Yeah.
I think in Australia, I definitely think there's a lot of room to grow, but that also falls on coaches as well. Coaches need to have that and be okay, we need to invest in strength and conditioning coaches, because there's no point doing all this training if your players aren't fit, and if they're not conditioned properly, you're going to get injured. So for me, I think that's probably one of the most important things. If I was ever a coach, that's probably the first person I would employ, is a strength and conditioning coach, just to kind of get all the girls' bodies right. Because if you're not right, you're not going to be playing, and if you're not playing, why are you on my team? So I think coaches also have a massive role in that as well, because they need to understand the importance, because I think they have more influence on the team than they think they do, if that makes sense. I think, you can't base it on the girls' education. I think it needs to be filtered down from the top.
Yeah, and I just want to let everyone know who's listening that we haven't paid you to be here and say this stuff.
I do genuinely think that is a massive component, and that's why a lot of I think you can tell, especially at the higher levels, it doesn't matter how good you are, but if you can hold your own, if you're strong, if you're fast, it's going to get you to a lot more places than just being skillful.
Just quickly, I'm going to have a field day cutting this one up.
Oh, this is going to be fantastic. We got so many highlights now.
There's so much promotion going on here.
No, honestly, I love it. And I think,
So go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think you can tell, because there are a lot of people who just kind of do strength conditioning, but if I ever see a Bosu ball, I'm done. I'm you don't know what you're doing.
Actually, just staying on the topic of strength conditioning.
We're going to stay on this for a bit longer.
Yeah.
A while longer.
But
This is our topic. What do you think is good strength conditioning for female athletes? So you were saying that, in American college system, all they're doing is Olympic lifting and deadlifts and not sport specific. What do you think is good sport specific, either in general or for females themselves?
And that's from you as an athlete, not necessarily what like we would do.
Don't say what we want to hear.
Yeah.
So what you think.
I think like I do, like honestly, I do just think foundations are important. Like can you squat? Can you deadlift? Can you just perform movements that are efficient in the right way? So for me, I just think the most important thing is like foundations. And I think a lot of people skip over that and they try and do stuff that looks cool, but it's like, but what are you doing? Like, yeah, you're doing like fast feet through a ladder, but like, what are you doing? Or like, yeah, you're like jumping on one leg and throwing a ball, but like, can you like squat properly? Can you actually transfer that strength? You know what I mean? So I just think a lot of the biggest thing is like, do you have that basic foundation of strength? Can you perform these movements in a safe environment? And can you do it underweight? And are you stronger? Are you faster? Are they going to make you better at stuff? So for me personally, I think that's what I like to do. I just like to throw some tin around in the gym, and if it's working, it's working. If it's not, I'll just go back to the drawing board and figure out what's going on. But
do you have a strength coach now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, what kind of work are you doing currently?
At the moment, just because I've just come out of off season, so we're just kind of slowly building up that strength. Just because in Italy, we had this old school strength conditioning coach. Like he was 80. We didn't use, I'm not even kidding, we didn't use any sort of technology at all, like nothing. We had no strength whatsoever. Like we didn't go to the gym as a team.
Wow.
So literally I'm back to basics. I'm just slowly building up that strength again and just like building that foundation. So going into preseason, I have a good base.
Who are you working with? Give us a little shout out.
Yeah, so it's my boy Ishmael, just Efficient Effort. He works out of Paddington Performance.
Yeah, brilliant. Hit him up.
Yeah, he's a homie. Yeah, honestly, he's a smart dude. So I trust him with my training.
We like smart people.
Yeah, you mentioned before about at the elite levels, at the higher levels, and it reminds me of things that I try and tell coaches that I work with and that I sort of consult with, is that as you get up to say NPL, okay, there's a big range of abilities you're going to get. WD, there's a smaller range. At the elite levels, there's even smaller range, right? Everyone at that level has ability.
Yeah.
The difference is how you then hone the body to be able to continue to use that ability.
For sure.
So I think that the biggest component from a strength training, from what you've mentioned, in regards to Australia, we are so far behind in regards to understanding the benefits and understanding what actually happens to the physiology of a female, number one, but of players, number
100%.
two, because it's not what I found. It's not just women's teams and women's coaches. You also get from male coaches to women's teams and male coaches to male teams. Like, we don't want to hit the gym because they're going to get too slow. They're going to get too bulky. This kind of bullshit.
They're making faster. Yeah.
Right. And it's that kind of education that I think that's why, Murph's asking, is that we can see a gap in education and we can see a gap in performance. And like you said, there's a reason that the US women's team is top and has been top for a decade, right?
Yeah.
It's because they're built that way. And load management in regards to actually achieving loads required to see performance change is a lot more than what you're going to get at the moment.
100%, yeah.
I think,
so how do you think you fill the void of education? What would you guys do?
We just keep talking shit every week until we reach someone who can change some things.
I feel like that's what you have to do. Yeah. That's what you have to do. Yeah. Like, if you have a platform, then you have to use it in some capacity. But I think it's such a massive...
Helps that who we're talking to, like yourself, is so on board with what we do. And like, obviously a figure like yourself with your what was the word I was going to use yesterday? I forgot again.
You did say we are prophets of change.
No, not that one. Of your...
Love that.
I don't know what you look about.
It's an S word, I'm sure of it. I've lost my words at the moment. Of your level of sport, your eliteness. Someone of your level is promoting how good strength conditioning is, how important it is for the benefit of not only injury prevention, but increasing performance.
100%. Yeah.
You're the kind of people we're trying to get in contact with more to promote that and educate.
And we were on a show yesterday, and we asked a similar question. We asked a similar question on what we would do and what we think is necessary to encourage that development. And for me, it's awareness. If it's awareness of, okay, cool, well, what are people doing in the gym? Oh, that doesn't look like you're going to get massive. Or what are people doing on a field? Or that looks like it's not going to work. It's that awareness of the back end of sport, especially for women's sports, right? That are starting to get more coverage now through your media deals and your social media deals and whatever.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
It's you see the sport, but okay, what goes into the back end? And I think when you look at things like Aussie Rules, where the female players are trained in the gym under the guidance of performance staff, at that higher at that higher level, that then filters down to those coming through the ranks. You're 14 training with 30-year-olds and seeing what 30-year-olds are doing to stay at that level. You go, shit, I need to be doing that. And it's getting more of that.
Then exposure to what you need to do.
Yeah. And I think that's where we stand. Like, we've seen that in across our what we said 31 years of combined experience, and especially the last 10 years, we see where those gaps are sitting. And it's a constant battle. I have chats to coaches this year, been doing it for that long, even this year, where they're like, we want to be doing BOSU balls and ladders and shit, because that's what you've seen be done in Europe. Like, are you fucking joking me?
That's what I mean. Yeah, people see things and they don't realize, okay, but why are you doing that? How is that making you better? Like, and people just want to look like they're doing it, but it's like, are you actually helping players? Like, are you making people faster and fitter and stronger? Like, because at the end of it, that's what you want out of strength training. Like, you want to be able to have an athlete that's going to perform.
Have you ever come up against someone in a park that you've seen do some BOSU work and then just like smash them, taking a ball pass off and been like, lift some weights and not get off the ball?
Like, there's so many people I see on Instagram stories, and it's just, and especially when I hate when I see someone in a power of importance, or like who has a gym and they're training young kids and they've got BOSU balls and I'm like, what are you training right now? Like, what are you doing now that couldn't be done in another capacity that's going to like be more efficient? So I just personally, I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of doing things to do it. And I think that's where the education comes in. Yeah, because it looks cool for Instagram and they're getting followers and I just think, but there's so many players like that I just see, and they think, and it's sad because they think they are doing the most they can do, and it's like, I think you just need to connect with a better trainer. But if you don't know what you don't know,
as an athlete and a teammate, then do you have those conversations with those in your team or coaching staff at all?
I think because fitness is such a personal thing, and it's like different things work for different people. I don't think I'm not going to be like, oh, why are you doing that? You like, you're an idiot. I think I've never had that conversation where it's like, why are you doing that? We should be doing this, or what, you know what I mean? Because I think any exercise or any sort of effort to get better is better than nothing. And it comes down to resources as well. Like, I pay my trainer, like, it's not cheap, and not everybody has that access to the resources, and not everyone can do that. So people just kind of do what they can do. But I don't think it's my position, because I'm not a certified trainer. I don't. And if they think it's making them better, then I'm not going to be like, stop doing that, you're an idiot. I just think, and then I haven't.
In a team setting, then do you ever have conversation with coaches or coaching staff? As in, not like you need to do this, like come at them like,
definitely.
We're succeeding in your face, but we're talking like, hey, we could be doing this better, or I thought this has helped me, but I've done things before, those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, I definitely have been on teams where I've mentioned like, we do need to be doing more gym, but also like, from personal experience, I think like some male coaches, like, their ego is very fragile. So it's like, just because someone's saying doesn't mean they're going to change. And that's the thing as well. They're like, what do you know? And it's and then I'm like, I don't know what I know. Like, I know what works for me. And I've been on teams where it's like, I think we do need to do more, but at the same time, we can't do more. So like, just like NPL level, W League's decent. Like, W League's fine. Like, everyone goes, we have access to everything. We've got trainers, we've got gyms, it's fine. But it's like at a level where more like NPL level, where everyone's working, we're training at 7 o'clock at night at the field, there's no access to a gym. what there's no one holding anyone accountable, and the coach isn't going to be like, okay, everyone has to pay out of their own pocket. They have to go to the gym and do the gym. So if, like, that's another big thing as well, is just like access to gyms, because I know like a lot of boys clubs have access to gyms, and everyone's like, come half an hour early, we can do a gym sesh together. Whereas for, I like a lot of female clubs, like they don't have that. So again, that's kind of broadening the gap as well between female and male soccer players or athletes.
And it sounds like it's across the board, because we have this very similar issues with NPL teams here, female NPL teams here. And obviously I'm here and we're here, that this is all we see. So I kind of assume, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, in Sydney, they're doing it better. In Victoria, they're doing it better. It sounds like it's across the board.
Yeah. I think it's such an effort, because you have to like actively and be conscious and go find a gym that's going to be suitable to what you want to train. And I think that's the hardest thing, is like people aren't comfortable doing that, or don't have the time or energy to go and find a gym that's going to work for them to make them better athletes. So they're just not doing it. Whereas like, I think to help bridge that gap, the gym and the training and the education needs to come to places where it's more accessible.
It's that pause for effect. That's when Murph's going to cut that out and put that as the.
We're gonna keep that bit in there.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's that awareness, and I think I can see, hopefully over the next sort of 4 years, 5 years, that'll come into more effect as the awareness goes up. But like I said, it's tough to do, and it's tough to bring that awareness, because at the moment there's no money there. So gyms or trainers generally won't make money going to a team, so what's the viability? Are you able to sustain a business there, or is it a part of the business? You've got that other aspect. And one thing I've discussed and been considering for a while is, going to, from a coaching perspective, going to the, say, FFA or the state level administrators and saying, hey, as part of your C license, he will offer this component, which is an actual S&C component, because you look at what coaches are being taught, sports coaches are being taught. And I can only talk for soccer here. Murph might know more about basketball, but you understand what coaches are being taught at that level to be able to be a coach, and the S&C idea and the building of bodies for the sport that you're playing is minimal. What they understand is minimal. And for me, it's like, cool, well, we can bring awareness to players. That's fine. But if they don't feel like they can have those conversations with their teammates or their coaching staff, then we've got to hit it from the top end as well. And we've got to filter it down. We've got to have coaches go, I've talked to one coach recently, right, who was right on the ball with exactly everything he said. He said, I was in I think it was a C license or B license. He was in one of the licenses, NPL. And I was in there, and he goes, me, and there was 20 other coaches in there. And they asked about who knows anything about S&C. He goes, I looked around, I was the only one to put my hand up. Who knows, who's looked into anything about building bodies? He goes, I'm the only one to put my hand up. And then the components were told. He goes, they were shit. They were shit. They would what be. I know they were, right? And so it's this idea of, okay, cool, well, we can build awareness at the bottom level, but it's not going to filter up. So understanding what comes from top down. And
100%,
my question, my long ass segue, what is
we're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm building it out. I'm drawing it out. When you talk about being at Westfield, right?
Yeah.
How did you find that went from that level? Because who did you have as a head S&C at that time? And how did that filter down through?
Well, so at the time when I was in high school, Tony Wiggs, who's now the Matildas strength conditioning coach, he was there, but he was a rugby league coach, but he was kind of like in charge of the gym. And I think going to Westfields, like part of our training was you had to go to the gym as well. And I think that kind of helped build my awareness and education from an early age, because it was always just kind of like, if you're a footballer, you're in the gym, like that's it. It's like they kind of go hand in hand. And I think a lot of coaches don't realize just how important it is, because they get, especially at NPL level, they just get players and they just think, oh, it's all football. But at the same time, it's the physical aspect is so important. And especially for a long season like NPL, you have so much time to work with players, especially with preseason. And I think it's just, it does need to come from like FFA or at least member feds, and just kind of coaching coaches, because that's going to be the most efficient way to kind of get that awareness aboard and just kind of get it into action, getting more strength conditioning into training, because you can't expect individual players to do it, because it's just such a multifaceted issue that the easiest way to do it is just kind of from like the head down.
Yeah, exactly. And then going from Western Sydney last year or year before last into Napoli.
Yeah.
In a COVID year.
Yeah.
All years.
Crazy.
Talk. Speak
about
that.
Yeah. So that for me, like, honestly, it was such a weird call, because I was supposed to go to Denmark earlier that year, but the paperwork, like, something happened in terms of like I'd signed for too many clubs that year. So I'd already signed for like an MPL club and like a W League club, and you only allowed to have like 2 registrations a year. So that was kind of put on the back burner. So I was just playing MPL, but I was still going to the gym like every day. And then when COVID hit, I actually was able to get some gear, so I was still training. And at that stage, it was just it was more just like maintenance. I wasn't training to get like for performance. It was literally just maintaining. And then I was also playing AFL last year, so leading into like an athlete season, I was playing Prime AFL, just because I wanted to do something different. Because it's just, I think obviously being an athlete, it's you have to do stuff that's sports specific. At the same time, you also kind of have to just like be athletic. You have to be an athletic person. So I thought I'd jump in, try some AFL, because just for a different vibe. And honestly, so humbling. Like, those girls are like weirdly fit, so fit. And then like you mentioned earlier, like, they're just animals. They just keep running and running, and they do kind of, the biggest thing was like all of the girls do go to the gym outside of AFL. So with soccer, it's like not as many people, but with AFL, like, everyone went to the gym. So it was just such a shift in the culture. But it was honestly so unexpected. Got a call from a friend, and she was like, hey, my agent just got a call from Napoli. They're looking for a centre back, because they were meant to get a Brazilian girl, but she couldn't actually leave the country. And he was like, he just like knows of you because of W League. Do you want to chat to him? So I had a chat to him, and 2 weeks later I was in Napoli.
That's insane.
Wow.
So like, luckily that I was still training through Corona, because if not, it would have been a big shock to the system. But like, I'm just like glad that I was able to just keep training in some capacity whenever to Napoli, and because I was like physically in good shape, it was easy to kind of like adapt and transition.
How'd you find the soccer transition?
Like
the footballing transition itself.
It's so different, because like individually the girls weren't technically or tactically as good as W League, but because when you're in Europe, like, none of the girls on my team were all full-time athletes, we're all full-time footballers. So the passion, and just Italians are crazy. Like, especially like the south of Italy is just crazy. So all the girls, they just loved it so much. So every session was like, girls were going studs up. Like, the first day I got there, I was like, what are you doing? Like, you just can't go into tackles, because people are gonna like literally kneecap you. So that was a big adjustment. I went from being like the toughest person on the field to just being like, you guys are crazy. But football wise, obviously you got the powerhouses. So when you play Juventus or AC Milan, they're like top notch, just because they do kind of have all that strength and conditioning and resources and facilities, and it's part of the men's club. But it was just a big adjustment in the sense that the football wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, in terms of like, it was just very direct. It was like not so much like formational tactics. It was just kind of like put your best 11 on the field and just kind of see how it goes. So that's a big part of why I did kind of go to Denmark, just because as a footballer, I don't think I got any better last year. It was just kind of an experience, and I experienced Italy, and there was things that I really did like about it. Like, I liked the culture, and I liked the aspect of being a full-time footballer, but the football was not as good as I was thinking it was going to be. So,
and how did you find, like, was there English? You had to learn Italian? Was it broken? How did you find the communication aspect?
The language barrier was insane. So we actually had a change in coaching, because the first round, I don't think we won a game. So I got there, and it was probably like round 6 or 7, and we hadn't won. And the coach we had was just breaking all the girls down emotionally. Like, he was very full on, and I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind a coach who's gonna like tell it as it is. Like, if you're not good enough and he says that, then you're not good enough. Like, that's it. So he was telling a lot of players like they weren't good enough, and I think he was expecting them to be able to bounce back and be better, but a lot of them just kind of like shut down. So we weren't getting results. So we got a new coach halfway through the season. And with the first coach, he spoke English, but the second coach didn't at all. Like nothing. Like all he would say is like "grande." That's all he would say. Like, and for me personally, I am someone that like I need to feel respected as a player. I need you to like trust in me and respect me. And I think because I wasn't able to communicate with him, he was never able to communicate with me. That was something else. That was like something I had to get over, is like not being able to feel like I was respected in the team by the coach, even though I knew I was, but the communication and just like the banter, you just couldn't have banter with half the girls because their English wasn't that great. But they're all like, so that the girls were lovely, but it was just that like it didn't really feel like you're on a team because you couldn't have bands. Like you'd always have to like whip up your iPhone and get a translator out. But luckily one of our captains spoke English and Italian, so she would have to translate everything, like every single drill, like everything. She would just stand there and translate it.
Did you learn much yourself?
Oh no,
No,
terrible. You know how hard Italian is, like my accent is just disgusting. So they were like, stop. And then the club put on lessons for us, but I just kind of stopped going. Like 6 weeks deep, I was like, I'm not getting any better. This is disgusting. So I was like, no, I'm right. Thanks, boys. Yeah, no.
And how do you go? I want to touch on the trust and respecting thing in teams. Then I think that's we've gone on a bit of a vibe lately with our conversations.
Yeah.
And from a like for you, from a playing perspective, how do you like to be I say addressed, but like what things do you feel help you build that trust and help you feel respected and help you feel trusted
for sure.
From a coaching staff? And what have you found in teams that you've been in before, whether it's in college or Westfield or back here in Wanderers? What things have you thoroughly vibed with and what things haven't you vibed with that you can remember?
Your questions are enormous today.
They're long today.
I've had like pen to start writing down.
I've had 3 coffees already. I'm just like,
no, love
chat.
that.
So what helps you feel trusted?
I think because I think a lot of people don't understand like being on a team. Like if you want to be like an elite athlete, half of that is being a good teammate. So I was like, if you can't be on a team and be adaptable, be friends with everyone and like figure out some sort of way to like form relationships, then you're not going to be successful on the team. Like that's it. So I think for me, I love being on a team. I love chatting to people. I love like getting amongst it. And I think that is so important. So when I'm on a team and I'm playing well and I'm feeling confident, it's normally when I'm in an environment where it's fun. Everyone has to take that accountability. So you can have fun, but everyone also needs to know like this is it, like it's crunch time, and like have that high standard. But generally, I just like to take the piss. I love a good time. Like I love like having fun, like making jokes. So I think for me, I feel respected and I feel like I play my best football when I'm like mates with the coach, but also like I'm not afraid like I want the coach to also like kind of be firm with me and be like that was shit today, and just so it's kind of like finding that balance of like knowing when to joke, but also kind of like being like be better, if that makes sense.
To answer your question,
you did.
Yeah.
Which part of it?
What makes you feel helps you build trust and value on a team? Yeah. I've got to stop saying, you know. Murph told me off yesterday for saying too many you knows. I've got to stop saying it. I think that's a big thing. Understanding what leads to that trust building from your athletes.
Do you think there's much of a difference between building trust amongst a female team and compared to a male team?
Yeah, I think females, we're very like emotionally touched people, and I think even coaching females and males, I just think if you want a female athlete to perform well, you just need to make sure that she feels confident, she feels like you trust her. Whereas like a boy, like they just, I don't even know. Like I think boys are dumb.
How do you think because by the sound of it, you said you've had lots of male coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any female head coaches?
Like when I was like 15 for state.
Okay, so most of the elite level are male, most of this stage.
Yeah.
How do you think a male coach would gain the trust of a female team? What should they be doing?
Yeah, I think if a male coach wants to be, he just needs to be honest and just tell it how it is, but also you have to understand that there has to be mutual respect. So he can't yell, like you can't yell at female players like you would a boy. Like you could yell at a boy for like, and they'll like respond to that positively. But I think for the most part, and I'm generalizing here obviously, but for the most part, like female athletes, like they just need to feel respected, and communication has to be such a big part of that. And I think that if you're not going to like if there's a reason why you're not playing a player, you need to tell them why. It's not just that you don't exclude them from the squad. Like you need to give them a reason why, and just always communicate, because I think communication is just such an easy way to just connect with people. And I think female athletes, like we like to feel connected. We like to feel like we're a part of something, be a part of a team or a community. So I think the biggest thing is just communication and just making sure that your players feel like you trust them.
Did that answer your question?
That's exactly what. It's funny because I asked a simple question and got a great answer.
Yeah,
hey, I told you, I'm like 3 coffees deep. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, wow, there's so much here I can talk about.
I mean, that's pretty much
there literally is. Yeah.
That's what we spoke
What do
about
you guys
yesterday.
think? Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly that. I mean, we were talking yesterday in the interview we had, and that's what we have felt in the female teams we've coached.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're the S&C, we're not the head coach, and we feel like if all coaches, male, female, did that for the female team, well, one thing we figured out, which you backed us up right then, was explain everything. The way you communicate is going to be the biggest difference between males 100%. And females teams. And that's what we were talking about yesterday, and what we sort of figured out in our experience.
Can you think of specific examples where a coach has gone over and above in communication that you valued?
Yeah, I think when Hef was coach at Wanderers, so last time was Wanderers last season or 2 seasons ago, I think the reason why we did so well as a team is because he just kind of like respected everyone and just communicated with everyone, and it was like the vibe of the team was just like so nice. Like he was such a positive coach, but at the same time like told you when you needed to like step up and be better. And I think from a coaching perspective, he's probably one of the best coaches I have had, because he just was just such like a patient and like understanding but also firm coach, and he just explained everything, and just he was so approachable as well. Like if you had an issue, like you knew you could go and talk to him about it. So that was massive. And
on the converse, can you think of any specific examples of things where you were like, no, this is not cool?
Yeah, I think I've had coaches where they really just yell at people, yell at players, and like the thing is, like if you tell a female player they're shit, they'll believe it. They'll be like, yeah, I am shit. Like there's always that self-doubt. Whereas like if you tell a male player, like if you tell a boy like he's shit, he's like, no, I'm not, you're shit. Whereas like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm the best in the world. Like you're the shit coach. Whereas like if you're a coach telling a female player like you're not good enough, like this, that, they already have that seed of self-doubt. So they're gonna be like, yeah, maybe I'm not good enough. And I think that is something that I have been on teams and experienced players just throughout the season lose confidence. And you can see when players lose confidence because they're just not taking as many chances, and then they're overthinking everything and making more mistakes, and it's just kind of like a tumultuous cycle.
Our last episode we released, or one before that, was the title of it was called "Girls Aren't Guys," and that's basically talking about when a male is talking to a bunch of females, you don't say, "Hey guys, let's go do this," because they're not guys. Yeah. Have you had that someone say it to you before and you go, well, you know what, fuck you because I'm not a guy, or do you just take it on and keep going? How do you respond to that? I think language is such an important component, but I don't have an issue with that. I call everyone the boys. I'm like, yeah, the boys, or lads, or I don't really care too much about language in terms of gendered language. But I think obviously some people are super, they're like, well, I'm not a boy. And it's like, yeah, and personally, I know you're not a boy. I just love it. That's just that's just the Western Sydney in me coming out. But I obviously I've never encountered it, but I think it is something, obviously, with younger athletes coming forward, that it is such more of a prominent gender and all the social components that are entangled with it. But I think if I was on a team and someone was like, don't call us that, I'd be like, okay, if you're not comfortable with that, we won't say that term. And I think you just kind of have to respect that. But personally, I don't have an issue with it, but I know some people do. Yep. But why? What did you guys come across? Well, pretty much what we came up with was we would ask, like pretty much like what you pretty much said was, we would ask, what do you want to be called? You know, if my default is, I generally say guys, even though I know you're females, this is what my default would be. What would you prefer? And if you prefer me say girls or ladies or squad or team or fam or whatever it is, that's what I'll do. And that's pretty much what we spoke about. Is a lot of people have a default of guys or whatever it might be, whatever their default is. Lads,
boys,
the fellas, the boys,
fellas.
And it's a matter of being aware enough to go, maybe 100%. This team doesn't like it. What else can we do to make them feel respected, trusted?
Exactly. I think it's a dick move if you know someone doesn't like to be called that. You say it anyway.
Oh, for sure.
That's definitely
that's a dick move.
It's definitely a dick move. That was more there. The details in communication, understanding what people want to feel trusted and to feel valued. You know, and finding out where that is. And I think from what you said, it's everything aligned with what we've experienced before. You know, the greater the communication in teams, the greater the connectivity and the feelings of being valued, because that's what everyone wants as an individual, let alone a player.
100%.
Right.
Exactly. Everyone just wants to feel connected.
Correct.
Definitely.
Right. Correct. So moving to the future, how are you feeling about moving back overseas? When do you go? What's the feel?
So I leave on the 12th, so really, really quick turnaround. But I just needed to come home and just kind of recharge the batteries for a little bit. Didn't know there was going to be a lockdown for the whole time I'm here, but it's okay. It's good to kind of get back and recharge. I leave on the 12th, so in about a week. Obviously, there's going to be 4 Aussies. There's going to be like Angie, Claire, and Indy's already there, and one of the coaches is Australian. So that already is just going to be amazing because I already know I'm going to have that support network or people who at least can have shared experiences with me. The language barrier, everyone speaks English. Honestly, just kind of excited for the new journey. I hate the cold though. So that's going to be like, I hate the cold. And that was one thing I was like, that's the only thing that kind of was like, do I want to go there? Because I hate the cold.
So where are you going? Where are you off to?
I'm going to Denmark, the north of Denmark.
Okay, Denmark's now.
Yeah. So I come from literally like southern Italy to the north of Denmark. Love that. So I'm gonna be packing some fake tan. Like, I'm not kidding. But yeah, no, honestly, I'm excited. A little bit sad just because the turnaround is so quick. But I'm excited to go out there and just experience a different culture and just kind of see how they do it over there. Because I'm expecting good things. Because I've heard great things about the club. They're like one of the biggest clubs in Denmark. They like routinely go to Champions League. So it should be a good experience.
And how long did you sign for?
I signed one year contract. They wanted 2, but I feel like as a female athlete, like I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years. Like I don't know what the vibe is. So I personally like to sign 1 year contracts just because so much can happen in a season. So I think the season finishes in June. So starts in August, finishes in June.
So you'll go there on the 12th. So you've got what, maybe 2 to 4 weeks preseason, if that?
I think so, yeah. Wow. I'm fine with. I hate preseason, so I'm fine. But if you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. So what is preseason? You know what I mean? Like, I'm right, thank you. So yeah, I'm just kind of doing what I can do now. But I'm like, honestly, like in terms of the girls, like I'm pretty adaptable. I can chat to a brick wall, so I think I'll be fine. And then footy wise, I'm just kind of excited to see what the standard's going to be like, because obviously they are such a powerhouse. I'm excited to see what the competition's going to be like and if I'm going to have to fight for a starting spot.
Have you done much video analysis of how to look at how they play and what their tactics are, what the style is?
Not really, just because one, there wasn't too much available, and they've changed their coaching staff. So I feel like there's not too much point watching how they're going to go, because last year was the first year they haven't actually made Champions League in, I think, about 10 years.
Wow.
Like 10 or 15 years they've made it every year. So they sacked the coach, brought in the old coach again, and just kind of bringing it back.
Getting back to Champions League, it's like international level shit.
Nice.
It's like of all the best teams across the world in like Australia and America and England, basketball teams all got together.
Like
FIBA. Do you not know football at all?
Like the FIBA World Cup. Murph has no idea.
Does he not know football? Nothing.
A very small amount.
It's like, it's a round ball, yeah? Round. Yeah.
Are you watching, do you know that?
Check. But I know as much about football as you speak Italian.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you're in trouble then, 'cause I'm literally so minimal. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
But he's
Do you enjoy
learning.
watching it all?
Uh,
Oh no, you can't appreciate it. So,
I'm
like so,
a-
so in basketball, I can't appreciate. I know
Yeah.
that's sick, but I don't know. It looks
I
easy to me,
understand.
but I know it's not.
There's a lot of skill. I mean, basketball and football are almost the opposite. Basketball's all hands, football's all feet, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
basketball, you
100%. I've
can't
got
kick
no
it. In
hand
football,
eye.
you can't
Yeah.
touch it, right?
You're like, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I can appreciate there's lots of skill, but I never really played it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. I'm the same with basketball. Like,
Yeah.
got no idea. It
My
looks
heart
cool.
breaks
But...
every time. This is why we
Why are you
work.
mates with him?
Again, it's the
Yeah,
opposite.
opposites
so we
attract.
match
Yeah.
like
No,
that.
I love that. Yeah.
It's true. This is exactly what we do. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to get off your chest at the moment? Because
Honestly, I feel like I've chatted so much. I'm all good. What about you boys? Any more questions?
You've done great.
I'm not going to ask any more questions.
We'll be here just for the question.
Literally.
This has been fantastic.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. I mean, not like you got much else to do. You're in lockdown, but
yeah, I actually am going to the gym later today though. So 3 weeks there. Of course.
When do you come out of lockdown? It's another week, isn't it? Next Friday?
It's meant to be. I'm so feeling. I literally had so much planned, like 4 concerts, like literally like itinerary, like day by day itinerary of what I was going to do, and then it all just got thrown away. I think we get out on the 9th, but it's probably going to get extended.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
like I literally came back to Italy, and it's great. COVID's everywhere in Italy. No one cares. Like literally, no one cares. There's no rules, nothing.
What?
And then I came back to, like, it's literally nothing. All people do is wear masks, and that's it. Like there's no regulations. Everything was open. It was fine. Like restaurants were open. Like it's literally so chill. And then I came back to Australia, and it's the complete opposite. There's like barely any cases, but it's so strict here. And that's like, again, I was like, where am I? Like it's so different.
Wow.
That's because Italians are so relaxed.
So relaxed. Like it's all like, I hate being late. That's the only thing. I hate being late. And I always felt like I was late because they just take so long doing everything. Like
still having their coffee.
Oh, and I'm let's go, boys. Cool, Epiphany step. But yeah, they're very relaxed, especially down south. But,
how did you find it then when you flew into to quarantine here?
oh my god, I was like, what is going on? Like it was so intense. Like, and then my girlfriend was actually with me in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
So she came the back end, and our flights just kept getting cancelled. And she actually, so we got on different flights back home. So she flew in 3 days before me into Adelaide.
Okay.
And I flew in but we weren't actually able to quarantine together.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. So we were literally like a block away from each other, like 400 meters away from each other.
Yeah, you could have just like hit me up. I would have sent you a rower as well as a bike.
No, I was just like, so that was just crazy. The fact that we literally just gone from like going out every single day, like restaurants, like literally like traveling everywhere, went to Sicily, Florence, like everywhere the last 2 weeks. And then we came back here, and touch wood, I don't know how we didn't get corona. Never had it. Came back here, and they were like, you can't do anything. It was.
If you were on the same flight, would you have been able to like quarantine together?
Yeah, but our flights just kept getting cancelled. Wasn't the only one. Like, so we were both originally in the same flight, and then she was waitlisted. Then I tried to get on her flight, and then I got waitlisted, and I was like, let's just literally just go home. So
wow, that's mad. Yeah, I remember saying, I'm flying into Adelaide, got quarantine here. Now I'm gonna go to Sydney, quarantine over there.
That's
filthy, and then I'm off again. Yeah, like.
Because like Chids messaged me as well, and she was like, "We're flying in. I'm quarantining in Sydney for 2 weeks, and she's got to come back to get her visa for Japan, and she's gonna go fly back to Japan and then quarantine again for 2 weeks in Japan."
It's just like it doesn't make sense. Yeah, like completely from a public health perspective. Obviously, that's what I say. I understand it, but it's crazy how much it varies from like country to country, based on just like culture and regulations. And obviously Australia's done such a good job, but is it too extreme?
I think we'll leave that question on that note.
That's not Murphy territory.
That's a different territory right there.
I mean, it's crazy because
if you get bored next week, hit us up. We might do a separate show, not a Murphy Mai Tai show.
But it's like crazy, but
we shall, I think, leave on that note. I'm gonna get another coffee. I think.
Like, you're gonna be buzzing, absolutely buzzing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time. We really
Thank you
appreciate
for having
this.
me. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Most welcome, man. I'm sure we'll be in touch before you fly out, but if you don't,
Definitely.
have a safe flight and enjoy
Thank you.
Denmark.
Yeah, I will. It'll be good.
Good luck over there.
Have a lovely day in your apartment.
You too. All right, see you, mate. Bye.
Bye-bye.